Hello and welcome back to a second chance. My name is Philip Jones.
And my name is Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease. If you or you know someone who has kidney disease and they need to be coached with their challenges, hit us up at kidneycarecoaches.com.
Awesome. Today we have a guest with us today, Mr. Robert Chelse. He is the oldest living face transplant recipient. Mr. Chelse, how you doing today, sir?
I'm actually I'm fine, thank you, but I'm not the oldest transplant recipient. That is George Franklin. I'm the oldest face transplant recipient.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I said. I apologize.
That's okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and get straight into it. You know what we're here for is Mr. Chelsea's story. So, Mr. Chelsea, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, my uh, story in terms of my face transplant started prior to the transplant itself. I had an auto accident in 2013 as a result of a drunk driver running into me on the freeway. My car was impacted in such a way that it went up in the air, it came back down, and it blew up.
Mm.
And of course, I was in there, and but yet God saw fit to direct me to my left because I was on the driver's side, and it seemed like I was just going through a long tunnel of fire. But I did get out, and as it were, a good Samaritan named Richard Robles came, and he was right there on the spot and assisted me as I was getting out. He helped escort me to a safe area. In doing so, by the way, uh, he said he tried to take my arm to escort me, but my arm was melting. So he had to take a belt buckle around my waist and then gently escort me to a safer area. We did check to see if the driver was injured, but he had not sustained any injuries. Please feel free to check in or ask questions as I share my venture. And of course, when the ambulance came, I was conscious, so I did receive burns all over my body, but I didn't feel as many, although it was hot, I didn't feel as many as you would imagine uh, because my body was actually burned from pretty much head to toe. But I was conscious enough to give an information on who I was and who to call. I thought they were just going to escort me to the hospital and check me out, and then somebody would pick me up from there. But as it turned out, I laid back in the gurney from the ambulance and I went to sleep. When I woke up, it was 6 months later. So August uh, the 5th until February 2014, I was in a coma. And and then of course about 3 weeks, I don't know how many it took for me to realize that I was actually in a coma, because so many people tried to convince me that I was in a coma that I knew I had a terrible accident, but I didn't realize that it was that severe because I was conscious, and when I woke up, they tried to tell me I was in a coma all that time, but uh, it just seemed like God just covered me with a friend. And this friend, who I have no face or name, but that friend throughout this coma seemed to be my very best friend. in so much that I confided, I trusted him, and I would consult with him. Have you seen my daughter? How is she doing? How's this? And his response always comforted me, where I didn't have to wonder or question, doubt. And so when I got out of the coma, so many people started coming telling me I was in a coma, that I'm a miracle, and all of these wonderful things. Uh, just words of gratitude and uh, 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 joy. And so, anyway, it took me a while because this friend was still, he didn't speak quite as much. He didn't, because so many other people, the doctors and nurses and friends, and, were, so I didn't have that private time, if you will. I didn't have the opportunity to consult with this friend that I was consulting with all those months. So that's basically what took place in terms of my burns. And as a result of that, my lips were burned off, part of my tongue, part of other portions of my, some part of my nose and so on. And after going through so many hospitals and doctors and uh, plastic surgeons and dermatologists, all on a consulting basis. The last one was at Kaiser, who knew a friend that had studied under a plastic surgeon who was a specialist in face transplant. His name was Dr. Bolden Tomahawk out of Brigham Women's Hospital at the time. And they contacted him, then he contacted me, and we felt that it might be worthwhile to go out to Boston and consult with him. So we did. And that was a 3-day process. My sister and I went. At that time, my sister was caring for me for about 3 years or so in Victorville, California. So when I got discharged out of hospital, by the way, although I was in the coma for the first 6 months, I was I was in the hospital another year. So in total, about a year and a half before I could see daylight. And when I was discharged, of course, I was discharged in my sister's care in Victorville, California. I stayed there about 3.5 years recovering. And during that time, of course, that's when we consulted with all these different doctors and so on.
Let
Any
me ask
questions?
you a question.
Yes.
Mr. Chelsea, this is an
Well,
amazing story you got here.
by
I
the
just want
way,
to ask.
call me Robert or something. You don't
Okay,
always have to put a Mister on it.
okay, I'll call you Robert. Um, I'm just kind of blown away by the story. So let me get this straight now. You were in a coma from August 5th to February 15th, is what you said. That's a
Around,
long time.
I don't know what date it was in February, but it was in February
Right.
2014.
Right. That's a long time. That's a long time. And and at that time, I I just want to get this clear. You had a friend with you that was telling you what was going on and everything, and you understood what was going on while you was in a coma.
What I knew, what was going on is a day of uh, uh, comfort. Uh,
Okay.
I had no worries. I cared for nothing. It was, I had a good friend and we talked all day. I can't tell you what we talked about. I can't even assure you that we did have a conversation all the whole day. But whatever degree and length of interaction was more than sufficient for that particular occasion. Now,
Right.
I can't say to you that hey, I went to bed at night and woke up the next morning and we had breakfast. It wasn't like that. It was just throughout the whole. I did not know I was in a coma. It could have been within a moment. It could have been within a day's time that all this, but it was sufficient for me to not be concerned about the things I had asked about. How's my daughter? Where is she? I haven't seen her. And he would assure me that, oh, she's doing fine. You'll be seeing her pretty soon. Things like that. And it was
Right.
sufficient for me.
Right. That's remarkable. Let me ask you something though. Going back to the you said you went to Boston to get looked at. You looked at, you talked to the doctors, and the doctors decided to do the transplant. Take us through that process, will you? Because that's pretty remarkable, also.
Yeah. The first time they called me, we flew out and we stayed 3 days. I met with the director of virtually every surgical discipline. Uh, I met with not a PA, not a physician, but the director of hematology,
Right.
oncology, general
Hmm.
services, general medicine, sur- uh, 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 dermatology, uh, uh, pharmacy, every discipline you can think of, radiology, all of the directors, and also I had three different. I think that 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 first visit, I had three different social psychiatrists,
Right.
psychologists, sociologists, and so on. They each had to have their own director, and I had to talk with them as well about how I would uh, how I look upon having the surgery. Uh, am I depressed? Do I think depressed? Or do I have apprehension about my looks, uh, my current looks at that? Will I be able to accept new looks and so on?
Right. Right. That's remarkable. And let me. How was your? How was you? How did you feel going through this whole process? Because this is such a brand new. I mean, I'm a transplant recipient. Phil's a transplant recipient, but this is our transplants are kind of regular right now. But this one you're getting is way out there. So how did you feel about this whole process?
Uh, Tafaro, I can explain, I can share with you. I'm not sure I can explain it. The reason why I
Right.
say share with you is uh, I don't like using generic terms like, well, God showed me, God said to me, God told me. Those, you can't believe, not even probably 90% of the people that use terms like that.
Right. Right.
But nevertheless, God does speak.
Yes, he
And
does.
He does make things certainly clear at particular times, uh, uh, and it could be for particular. He's able to do it to any one of his children, but
Right.
in this case, he gave me the green light uh,
Hmm.
for this. And by the way, just I know this may not satisfy some of the audience, but I had no pain whatsoever. Not just through the coma, after the coma, no, never had pain other than the, 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 the few spots of pain that I had initially at the fire site. I never had pain after that.
Wow.
Well, now, that may not be convincing to, the guy next door, but
Right.
that's why I can't, but I can say to you, I didn't have any pain, and I can go a little bit further if you like. This face transplant, there was no wrappings whatsoever after the face transplant, and
Mm.
I did not have any pain. Not
Man, that's
one
amazing.
bit of pain. They give you Tylenol 3 before they put you under. That's the only, they didn't have to give it to you afterward. Or anything. Now, could I orchestrate that for myself? Oh,
Right.
no.
Right.
Could I have willed that upon myself? No. So, uh, though I walk through valleys of some, I don't have to be brave. I don't have to be courageous. I don't have to be full of faith, complete believer, trusting always. No, God provided that level of comfort without me asking.
Mm. That's big. That's
He
big.
did this in advance. I woke up. You think I wasn't thinking? Well, I should. I hope I don't have any. I didn't have anything to think of.
Right. Right.
So
You
this
know
is
the
my.
way when you're putting it like that, Robert, is it's remarkable to hear how you tell this story and how it's almost like it's past walking with faith. It's like it's almost like a knowing. It's like you take the steps because you know already, and
And it's not that that I have uh, 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 foreseen anything, but there is a degree. You know, when David said, "Yea, though I walk the valley of shadows of death, I fear no evil." I realize now he wasn't just poetic. You know, he writes a lot in the books of Psalms, all those.
right,
And some of it sounds like just beautiful words. You know, people have said beautiful words in Psalm, whether it's secular or not.
right,
But I know now David was talking about what he went through. I walked through valleys of shadows of death, and I did not have to fear evil, for God was with me.
mm,
That's what he was saying. Not, oh, God was with me, oh, and some nice sweet words about God. No, he was talking about what he experienced. He didn't
right,
have to worry about anything. And I know that now. Although I knew, the 23rd Psalm, every knucklehead has heard or read or can recite it. But now I know that David just wasn't writing. Oh, no. Uh, Noah was Job. He said, I know my Redeemer lives, and I shall see him the land. How do you know that, Job? See?
right.
No,
Robert, take us through the process. Okay, at the moment, okay, you're about to get the transplant. Tell us how this was performed from what tell us your experience with this.
I got a phone call on the 25th of July, 2019, around 9:20 that night. Dr. Tomahawk gave me a call and said, Robert, we have a donor for you. And of course,
Mm,
I had to check him, see if this was a legitimate phone call. You know how you might hesitate. This is you really sure? He says, yes, I'm sure. We have a donor for you. We need you to be here tomorrow morning. And I was 9:20 Western Pacific Coast time, and of course he's on the East Coast.
right.
So after he assured me that this was legitimate, of course, I called who I needed to call, my godson, because the media had been, they wanted to take me there to the airport, fly with me, get out there, and all that. But logistics couldn't work because I got the call 9:20 at night. I'm getting ready to go to bed at the time, and so I just made arrangements and let my daughter know, and one or two others. I'm going. Made the airline arrangements, and I arrived in Boston uh, at around 5 o'clock that Friday evening, and the cameras, some of the Time magazine and uh, another production company and so on, they were there at the time, and they picked me up in the airport, took me to the hospital, so they could take the pictures walking in and all that. So anyway, once I got in, I had to sign the entry papers for them to uh, check me in, and it was very smooth process. There was no worry or hesitation, and it's not. Don't give me credit for being so brave. It's just that I had the peace that gave me that kind of assurance. I
Right.
don't think it's once in a lifetime now that I am experiencing how God has dealt with me on these occasions, but I still was pretty comfortable throughout the whole process.
Right. How long was the surgery? How long was the surgery? And tell us
16
about your
hours.
recovery.
The surgery was 16 hours. Keep in mind, the uh, the donor was not located in the New England area, so a team had to take me and begin processing my burned face, and another team, Dr. Tomahawk and his another team, flew to the location where my donor was. Now, while at the donor, well, at that location, there was another team that was preparing the donor's body. So there was three different teams basically. Team that was preparing me, the team that flew over to the location to get the donor, and the team that was already at that hospital preparing the donor. And so that's how it went. Uh, I arrived, as I said, say 5 o'clock, 5:36. By the time they escorted me to a room, no, they didn't escort me to too much of a room. That's right, because it was still on the same floor, where they were going to do the surgery. So they put my gown on and all that. And then uh, by 12 o'clock or so, all the physicians that were going to do the surgery told me that it's going to be a delay, and so they didn't leave until I guess I don't know 3 o'clock uh, in the morning, and they came back and started the surgery. When I came out of ICU, which apparently was I don't know, a 3 or 4 hour period, uh,
Hmm.
then I was rolled right into the room. No bandages, no nothing. What you see here, except it was way out here, the swelling and all that. Way out. Oh man! But the lips were on, and the next day hair started growing. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, and the beard started coming in.
Mm.
Yeah, I was very weak, and you might say just totally exhausted, but I was not in pain, uh, and that's of course about the main thing.
Let me ask you something. Did you like the areas that were burned, like such as your nose, your lips, and the head? Did you after the surgery, like even right now, can do you have feeling in those areas of your body?
Well, it's almost 3 years out,
Okay.
and yes, I have some. Uh, I still take speech therapy
Okay.
because these new lips are still trying to figure out whether they want to cooperate with me.
I got you.
These
Right.
cheek, this cheek is trying to figure. This cheek is trying. This chin is trying to figure it out. This nose, you see, it's running like. Well, I can't. You know, it's it's his nose deciding what it's going to do with me. My forehead, the same thing. My head, the same thing. So it's not just a, a transplant, if you will, taken in or taken out. In your case, I don't know how they do a double transplant. I mean, a double kidney, but
Right.
uh, but I know they add one kidney. I don't know the person anyway, but uh, it's just different than a heart, liver, lung, because you have all of these, and the blood vessels is one thing. The
Right.
tendons, the muscles, the
Yeah.
nerve endings,
Yeah.
that has to be attached. Otherwise, there is no, and that's what would cause a rejection. So you're subject to rejection in any one of those areas. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah.
And do you still take anti-rejection medications for the
Oh yeah.
and
That's right.
what's your what like we take like we might take Prographs, Cellcept, medications like that. What are the medicines that you take? Are they the same types or what?
Same types in that, from my understanding, every transplant patient will take immune suppressant
Right.
medication,
Hmm. That's true.
rejection,
Right.
etc. So I'm in the same category.
Okay.
Uh,
And go ahead. I'm
because
sorry. Go ahead.
because mine is a face, and like I said, these cheeks have the special requirements. You might say my eyelids, special requirements, uh, and so on. My medication is modified, and from what I have heard from other patients, I have a few more medications that I take. I take 16 pills in the morning. Right
Hmm.
now, 3 years later, 16 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, and about 7 to 8. Because sometimes they don't want me to take this or take lower dose and so on. 7 or 8 in the evening, and that's every day.
Right. How's
Also,
your appetite?
have
How's your
in,
app? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I also take an infusion. Uh,
Okay.
Magnesium and
Hmm.
hydration. I take that 3 times a day. I mean, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Right.
Yeah. So, that's, but remember, my body is a 70-year-old body. And uh, during the burns, I had, you know, other complications. They had to take 2/3 of my intestines because of the kind of infections that I had. And I'm a person that never drank or smoked or got high or any of that ever, even as a teenager. But
Right.
uh, as a matter of fact, the cutoff age for a face transplant was 50 years old.
Right.
Uh, when they started evaluating me, I was already 64.
Mm, I got you, man. This is wow. So let me ask you something like this. Like so with the accident, did anything happen to your heart, lung, kidneys, anything like that? Like any organs? You said the intestines, they had to take some of that out. Was there any internal damage? Let me just ask you that.
Well, yes, damage. I don't, well, let me put it this way. After, okay, the first 4 months I was at UCI, that's the University of California, Irvine, Burn Center,
Hmm.
from August to December 2013. I was still in a coma.
Right.
They had finished everything they could do to save my life and to take care of the burns. I was
Right.
still in a coma and my organs would not work. So they sent me to a long term center, and the probability was that I would die because, the organs just weren't coming up to where they should be.
Right.
So I'm in now the long term center, which is called Kindred Long Term Hospital. So I wake up out of the coma, but I still have to stay there because my organs were not working right. So that's why I thought, oh, okay, my organs, you guys, that's because I couldn't figure out why I felt fine.
Mm.
I had no idea of the severity of all. I could see my legs and arms because the sheets were over, how they had to give you bed baths and all that. So I could see that my legs and arms are all burned up, much more than I ever figured. But I still couldn't figure out why you keeping me. I'm feeling just fine. But it was because all my organs just were not operating. So they didn't. I stayed in the hospital a year and a half for that reason.
Right. How did they get the organs to work? What was the? How did they get those? Your heart, your kidneys, and lungs. Because that's a lot of organs for them not to be working, and you're still living, and you're still being, and you're still saying I'm fine. How did they get those things? How did they get the organs to start working?
Uh, you would have to ask someone much
I
more
got you.
medically technical than I am.
Right.
But it's easy for me to say, well, how did I get the premier face transplant uh, surgeon in the world to do my face transplant.
Right.
How did I get UCI, one of the top medical centers in the, to take care of my burns? Uh,
Right.
it's easy for me to say,
Right.
God has seen fit. I mean, who else could orchestrate? People would tell me, "Oh, Robert, you are a fighter. You are." What could I have done? What tools? What instruments? What resources would I have to recover myself?
Right. Right. It was basically what you're saying. Basically, is it was out of your hands. Everybody wants to give you praise, but the praise goes upstairs. It seems like because it was out of your hands. When
It's
to me,
completely
it's
out
just
of it.
beautiful.
Never was in my hands. And
Right.
also,
Never was in. Right.
please consider God could have easily let the drunk driver that hit me, he could have let that car swerve around me. And I wouldn't have been hit. I could have seen that and said, "Oh, thank you, Lord." Instead, he let me get hit, let the explosion occur, and allowed me to go into the hospital and stay all this time. See? Now, if he has credit for doing that, why can't I give him credit for keeping me, comforting me, and raising me up?
I agree. I totally
If
agree.
Daniel had to be thrown in the lion's den, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it today. The Hebrew boys had to be thrown in the fiery furnace. They didn't do anything to deserve that.
Right.
And yet they rejoice today. Why? Because he has to have somebody in there, in the valley, so that you can see that there are lilies in the valley.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, it's just another story told.
That's true. That's so true. It's basically saying somebody got to go through it. Why not me? You know what I mean? I hate to say it like that, but it's true. Even though I can't lie, Robert. I'm in shock. I'm in a state of shock just listening to you tell me this story, and I'm sitting here like, wow, this man is really telling me what's really going on and all the things he went through, where it could have been just like that, and you're out of here. And this man is sitting here telling us the story, and I'm blown away. I'm not going to act like I'm not. I'm blown away.
But don't get too far away because that reality is all through the annals of time. See, he's never. I mean, look at Joseph. He was falsely accused of Pharaoh's wife. Uh, you can imagine how he was beat up before they threw him in jail. See, and they put him in the lowest part. Did he complain? And you think, well, my God, he didn't deserve. Why wouldn't? Well, he's mad with God. He's got to be mad with God. It's the same one that his brothers tried to bury him alive. But there's an element here. If I can say anything, there is a true element because of what he is able to do. He's just got to have somebody that he can use that to tell the story.
Man, that's right. That is
Uh,
right.
You think that, well, aren't you mad with God? I mean, look what he did. Well, it's a joy. If you knew the comfort that I have had through this, how could I what have I missed out there in that world? A
Right.
party
Right.
or a dance or what have I missed?
You've actually gained.
I have truly gained.
Right. Wow, man. Phil, you want to go to commercial? Man. Whew.
Now I got a question first.
Okay.
How I want to know, how did you feel when you came out of your coma?
I felt exhausted, uh, but I felt okay, if I can say it that way. What that means is I I was all right. When I moved around, then I could feel, because my head was swollen and all that, I could feel. the sort of like a cushion, you know, the swelling part. There was a
Yeah,
cushion.
yeah.
I moved that around. You know, the bed was comfortable. And, hallelujah. I mean,
Yeah, that's a great feeling when you got a comfortable bed in there, especially having to stay in there for a year or six
well,
months,
no,
and you do
yeah,
some turning.
right. No, those are all different beds I was in. I was actually in UCI for the first 4 months. Then, of course, they
Right.
uh, sent me to Kindred. I stayed in Kindred maybe 2 or 3 months. Then they sent me to Rancho Los Amigos for rehab. But while I was at rehab, I was only there for 3 weeks. At that time, they realized I had gangrene toes and fingers, and uh, and my head had not been uh, securely grafted. So they sent me back to UCI, and I stayed back there. They amputated my fingers and two of my toes, and uh, and, uh, and grafted my head. And then I stayed there during the summer. Then they sent me back to long term again, Kindred, and I stayed there for another 2 or 3 4 months, and then I was sent to another. So I was in UCI twice. I was in Kindred twice. I was in Rancho Los Amigos once, and then my last stop was at a nursing care, Paramount Metals, uh, and I was there for 30 days. That's when they discharged me, and I stayed recovering with my sister, and they sent occupation uh, speech and physical therapists to my house. By the
So
way, I still
what I want?
all three of
No, go
those.
ahead.
I still have those three therapies going on uh, right here at the house.
No, okay. So what I want to know is what goes through your mind after making so many hospital changes. That way, I know you said the first 6 months, obviously, you were in a coma. So in that year after you were in a coma, when you woke up, how was that? Like, what was your thought process about moving from hospital to hospital?
I was well. I was really kind of looking forward. When they told me, they asked me if I wanted to go to rehab at Los Amigos, for an example, and of course I said, well, yeah, because I knew Los Amigos Hospital, and yeah, I look
Mm.
forward to it. Remember, I'm thinking I'm just fine, other than just they're telling me about my organs, but by that time the organs was doing a little bit better, so that's why they thought I was ready for rehab. But Rancho Los Amigos rehab was pretty intense. But the treatment, in terms of the people, they all, you know, man, I've had some of the very best treatment. Considering you're in a hospital, I knew all the nurses, all the doctors, all the administrators. I knew when their lunch break, I mean, not with their vacation time and what the kids were doing. So we got very, I mean, you're in there 24 hours a day, as you, multi 24 hours a day, all day, all holidays, and all. So you get acquainted with different ones. And you don't neglect, in most cases, especially when you're at that time severely burned before the transplant. Well, any visitors, they know, oh, he's for Robert, because it's not that many blacks that's in the hospital that long. Everybody, all the administrators, everybody knows you. So I had no problem, Philip, with being moved. I looked forward to it, but I wasn't uh, discouraged by the time frame that I was there. It also gave me just a wonderful time. Remember that experience I had for those 6 months. Well, don't you know that friend, I look forward to mingling and interacting with that friend all through that. So when I'm there, it was just a time to enjoy. I could be at rest, if you will. So
Right, right. That
I
makes
had no
sense.
problem with moving from one house. It wasn't that frequent, It was probably just enough time. And they just treated me, every one of them treated me very well.
Good, good. How how like your speech to me is very good. How long did it take you to get for your speech to get as good as it is right now?
I don't know, I can't, it's hard for me to measure how good it is. For an example, to follow, if you ask me to smile, this is my smile.
I got you.
I cannot open my teeth. I can't show any of my teeth. These
Uh-huh.
teeth will not allow me to grin.
Right.
So the chin is still deciding whether it wants to cooperate. See?
It's all
So
getting used to it still.
yeah,
Right. I got you. I got you. Man, what a story. Oh man. Okay. I don't have any more questions. I'm really happy and excited and thankful to get to know somebody like yourself who's went through something like that, and then not just go through it, but have such a great disposition and understand. It's like a sir. I'm sorry to call you sir, but Robert, you're almost like a calming effect around people. I could tell that you have a calming allure, just who you are, and it really brings people to calmness, and it brings people down to earth and makes them understand that you really have to be thankful for what you have.
there's a lot of realities in this world. One of them is our Heavenly Father. So you got to remember anything, uh, and if He is a reality, brother, He's a best thing going, way past the invention of sliced bread.
I agree. I agree. I think you're.
Well, I
I
got it.
think. Go ahead. Go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. But good. You good?
I was just gonna say, we all have God in us. I just think sometimes some of us tap into it a little bit deeper than others. Because sometimes when we go through these things, it's not about us. And this is a prime example of something that we go through, like you did, Robert. That's bigger than us. And there's other learning. There's things that we need to be learning from what you went through. That's what I'm saying. That's what I want to say.
So I have two
Go
more
ahead.
questions, but before, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Robert.
No, I was just going to say you had some questions.
Oh yeah, no,
I don't have any more
I was
questions.
gonna say I'm asking. We're gonna go to a commercial quick, and I'll come back and ask you the two questions that I
Okay,
have left.
okay.
Hey, welcome back to a second chance. So, Robert, what I want to ask you is, do you keep in contact with the guy that said, even that he said his name is Richard or Robert?
Yes. Oh yeah. Richard Robles. We've done interviews together, uh, and he and his family have come to Victorville. We're taking pictures together. He came to my church. We worship together. So we're in touch all the time.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So my last question for you is, um, if somebody comes to you and they're kind of contemplating, the face transplant situation, because we know there are, things that can go wrong in this process. It's hard to say, but what would you tell that person?
I would talk to them personally because every situation is different. Uh, that's why we go through the process of psychological interviews, and because obviously, no matter what the uh, potential surgery is, it has to be seriously considered. So, you know, I wouldn't want to give a recommendation. Oh yeah, if you can get a face transplant, go get it. There are over 300. The military, U.S. military, has over 300 candidates that could be receive a face transplant, and that's how the contract was given to Brigham Women's Hospital to do 10 successful transplants, face transplants, and some were partial, some were full. And so in my case, mine was full um, because I was, as a burn, you got spots all over your body. Uh, but it has some continuity. They decided to do full. My nose uh, kind of needs to be replaced, and of course, I had no lips. Uh, and so, like this donor, his his face was probably a little larger than mine. Yeah, his face was probably a little larger than mine because they had to tighten it a little bit, you know. Uh, Also, I received my hands cadaver skin during the burns. They had to immediately put on a cadaver, another person's hands. These are not my fingernails. They didn't grow this way. In order, So there's a lot to consider. I wouldn't just say, uh, nor would the two of you, having your experiences, just recommend a kidney transplant. Although in many cases, that would help the majority of the kidney patients.
Right.
But in my case, this is too rare for someone just to say, "Oh yeah, that's what I want," unless they got, we take some time to talk about it because it is a process.
Yeah, this is a custom situation to the fullest, man. So this is not a cookie cutter kidney, and I don't want to say a kidney transplant cookie cutter, but compared to a face transplant, it is. So I'm just
Yeah.
well, I don't have any more questions. It was great to meet you, sir. It was a wonderful story, and I just love your composure, and I love who you are. And wow, I know your story is helping a lots of people, man. This is remarkable. That's all I want to say. And thank you again for sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you. I hope it does. I'm still kind of amazed at how it's a good story. It is a good story. It's wonderful. I think when David came out the lion's den, he rejoiced, but he just went about his business. And and it's the same here. It's like well, I can't say he did, but I just assume that he did because I know how I feel. Uh, uh, Morning by morning, new mercies unfold.
Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Robert, we appreciate you coming on to your story, man. You look great. You sound great. And we appreciate your time 100%. We hope things continue to get better for you over time. I know you're only 3 years out, and we hope you have many more years after this to keep pushing and keep going, sir. So again, thank you very much for coming on a second chance and telling your story.
My pleasure. Thank you both. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, sir. It was good meeting you.
All right.
All right.
Bye bye.
Well, that
Bye
was
bye.
our show. That was our show for today. Next week we'll have Allie Jenkins on with us. The week after that we'll have Tim Song, who is a cancer survivor. So we got a lot of good stories coming your way these next couple weeks. And we appreciate you tuning in or even watch on the replay. So have a great day.
All right. Thank you.